Look at the pretty birdie. Do you see the pretty birdie, everyone? Tweet, 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 tweet.
Lovely.
Who sees the pretty birdie?
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Legends by Night.
Hello,
been a little bit-
hello.
It's been a little bit since we joined you guys. We took a little bit of a break last time 2 weeks ago, and we're hopping back in here with a show all about the mysteries of the great outdoors. Be it from camping, staying at cabins, or just wandering through the woods, there's a lot of crazy shit out there. So yeah,
Yeah,
um,
there is.
I'm going to open this with one that I don't think I've ever talked about this one on the network. This is a weird situation I was in. If you guys don't know about me, I like to go to weird places to get cabins or camping and things like that, and I drag my family along sometimes. And this particular time, I dragged my wife Michelle along with me. We wanted to just a couple nights getaway. Nothing too major. We didn't want to take the kids. It was just just the two of us. So we got this nice little one-room cabin. It had a front porch that was all enclosed with like a hot tub on it, and it was a nice place. We from the pictures and everything. So we get there and we start driving there, and both of us are like, "Oh, this area looks weirdly familiar." Neither of us could remember having been here. There was something different about it. It just had a vibe, and as we got closer, we started seeing the old signs. This very infamous place in Ohio called the Gore Orphanage. I'm pulling something here to explain to you guys a little bit about what the Gore Orphanage is.
I like orphanage. That's a good word.
Orphanage?
Gorphanage.
Gorphanage, yeah, it's basically what it is. More or less, the Gore Orphanage is the subject of a local legend in northern Ohio, which refers to a supposedly haunted ruin near the city of Vermilion in Lorain County, Ohio. Now, a lot of terrible, terrible fucking things are said to have happened at this orphanage. Children were starved, beaten, murdered, just other things that I just don't feel like I want to mention at all. And the place was closed down, and the building was left to rot. Eventually, it just became ruins. Well, apparently, since the time that I had gone there to investigate last, some years had passed in between, and they'd torn even more of the ruins down, and they'd started developing property around it. So the cabin we stayed at was actually technically on what used to be the grounds of the orphanage. So it's a very haunted area. Very weird things happened there. I remember in my youth when I had investigated. I expected some, potential, like more ghost-based on the paranormal side type of activity. That is, however, not what we ended up getting. One of the nights we were there, I decided to hop in the hot tub and chill out, and we were doing one of our infamous campfire events on the Right Discord server back before that was a show or a podcast. It was like the origins of where Del and I started with it, and I was chilling in the hot tub. We told some stories. We were just kind of talking afterwards, and I'm looking through like the screened-in porch, and something moves, and I thought it was the tree because over in that area there's very tall, very thin trees, and it's when you see something move like clearly because there was enough light to sort of show it. Um, it was very confusing, honestly. Super super confusing. Looked a little bit closer, and then yeah, I was telling them what I was seeing, and I saw something move again. Except for this time, I saw a little bit more definition, and it wasn't a tree. It was something about the height of the tree and the size and thin width of the tree that was moving from behind the tree, peeking out from behind it, and moving back behind the tree. And we probably talked for, I don't know, I guess like an hour or so while I was out there, Dell. Time is terrible for me, but it felt like we were talking for a long time out there.
Yeah, it was. We were there for quite a while. Like we had a couple of hour sessions that
Yeah.
night.
And there were times I recall when you guys could even hear straight the sounds that I was hearing because like, you could hear it move. Like when it would actually move once I spotted it and started talking about it, it stopped being sneaky. It would just move out from behind a tree and then just go while facing, like moving sideways to stand behind another tree, and it was getting closer to me and the tree line to the point where when it ended, it was only maybe I'd say 20 feet, maybe 30 at best, from where the screen was right next to where I was sitting in the hot tub. So like this thing was pretty close, close enough to my face, and there was enough light for me to see what it was. And it looked very tree-like, but it had really long, skinny, lanky arms that kind of had folded in front of it. And upon closer inspection, it even had very long, thin legs, but its skin was very just bark-like and mossy. So it wasn't like a treant type of thing. It was this weird, fucking thin, creepy ass creature that seemed to have been made of wood or just looked like it was made of wood somehow. And for the longest time, I thought maybe Michelle was fucking with me. Maybe she went out the back. I remember when we were talking, I was hollering out there, because I didn't think it was something serious at first. And then I got progressively more nervous as it was going on. And I know Dell and some of our other friends were getting progressively more nervous, and they were asking me questions. And I was answering what I could. And I was just trying to directly ask it questions because I was in that situation where this thing could move pretty quick. Yeah, I was in a screened porch, but it was just a screen, man. Like that thing could have just walked right through there, and I would have had to have where the hot tub was. I would have had to get out and take by the time I hopped out, it would have probably already been through the screen. So I didn't see a point in running because if it wanted me, I was already gone. Whatever the hell it was, I was already just gone. I've seen things similar, but I've never seen anything quite like that. I did a lot of research online. I couldn't exactly find what it was. A lot of people believe that it was just a type of spirit guardian. A nature-based spirit guardian is what a lot of people thought it might have been. I mean, it's not like I felt like it was going to kill me, or I didn't get necessarily a bad vibe. But I'm sorry, when you see something like that in the middle of the night and you're in a hot tub just talking to your friends and hanging out, you do not expect to see something like that pop out from behind a tree and wander from tree to tree and get right up on you. And eventually, after the phone call, I was on my phone, doing the whole thing. After that was over, I probably sat out there for another 30, 40 minutes just waiting to see if it would move. And it just stepped out from behind the tree after I got off the call and just stared at me. And the last 20 minutes was it just standing in the open, just staring at me. And then it actually turned its back to me and it wandered off back into the thicker parts of the wood, and that was it. So the only time I saw it, that was the only weird thing that happened on that little, just a little, I think, 3-day vacation. It wasn't even that long. But yeah, it was something that just really stuck with me, man.
Well, and it talked to us. I don't know. We're sitting there listening to you, and we're hearing our own voices in the background popping up
Yeah, that
and
was
saying things
I
that we
forgot
didn't say. That's
I
why,
forgot about that too. It was very mimic-like. It wasn't a forest mimic, but it
yeah,
did kind of. I forgot about that. Yeah,
that's why we were freaking out. Is because it's like I just heard myself through your headphones saying something that I haven't said,
yeah.
and
And
it wasn't just me. It was all of us that were talking to him were getting their names or their voices used towards him.
And I remember it was the voices that started before I saw anything, so I thought it might have been the forest movie is what I thought it was until I saw it. And I mean, for all I know, there were forest mimics out there as well, and that. But like, if it was like like, sort of like a nature-based spirit guardian, mimics would not be near that. It would have ran them off. So I don't. Maybe that's not what it was at all. I mean, I just have no idea what it was, but I had forgotten about the voice thing because at first I thought maybe there was like some videos on my phone or something. No, I don't ever take videos or pictures on any of my phones ever. I thought maybe like there was a feedback or there was some kind of I don't know something going on with someone else's. So yeah, I remember now though we had everybody mute but me to make sure it wasn't interference.
Mhm.
Like we did all these little tests on all our own ends to figure out what the fuck was going on. But yeah, I do remember that now. I'm glad you're here because I would have forgotten that part, and that was like actually probably the even creepier part of the
That-
story.
Yeah, that was the creepiest part. Was you have a whole bunch of people sitting in a room with you that can't see anything but can hear themselves, and we're all just
Yeah.
like, let's quit
And-
telling stories and just listen to Raz's feed.
And
Scream if it's starting to get close.
The super weird thing for me is like that was like towards the beginning of me and Dell, like like becoming brother and sister and stuff, like and hanging out a lot. That was like within like the first probably 4 or 5 months that we really started talking a lot. And a lot of the other people there, they talked to us sometimes, but not as much. So Dell had heard a lot of my stories, but this was like the first time she got any proof, like direct, actual proof. And everyone else thought I was full of shit until that night. And then when that went around, like it was nuts. Like people finally realized the shit that I was telling them was actually happening.
Yeah, then everybody was like, "Holy shit, we thought those were all made up stories." And it's
Things
like,
changed
"Oh, no."
quite a bit after that night. Yeah.
Yeah, people started being like, Raz was always the last storyteller because then we would play what is true and what is false. And then I was like, you can't play that game because everything is true.
Or elements of.
Yeah.
It's hard because like I make up some stories and tell them for Elliott Society. I definitely have not told all the ones I used to tell back in the day yet on Allied Society. I need to get on more of those. But once in a while I would make one up. But like, and that's the hard thing because I would make something completely up. And sometimes the shit I didn't make up was just what people would think that was fake. And the shit I did make up was what everybody thought was real. It was all backwards and it was just all screwed up, man. It was a lot of fun. But like, I've been, part of nature my entire life. I grew up part-time on a reservation, spent a lot of time on a farm, a lot of time camping with my dad and my family in the woods. Like, literally, the woods are probably the biggest part of my life as, I guess I'm human. I don't know. I can't figure that out yet. Whatever I am. I'm an emotional support cryptid, apparently. That's what I've been told.
Yeah.
Amish Raz.
The Amish Raz is that's a very different Raz. I have several Razes.
Pete's donuts.
Yeah. Those fucking donuts are so good. I need to go back there for more donuts. Anyway, what about you, Pyle? Let's talk about some like odd experience you may or may not have had in the woods.
Let's see here. When I was younger, I had a very active imagination, and sometimes trying to remember stuff, you kind of try figuring out what was your imagination, what happened, what did this, what did that. We didn't always go camping. I didn't start really trying to go camping until I was older, tried doing a little more adventurous stuff, probably 18 to 20, somewhere in there is when I really started just grabbing a tent, going out somewhere. And our buddies had this family's property that you would camp on the island. And when you camped on the island, you're surrounded by water. Oh, look, there I am. But
That is not the one I want, but please continue. There me is.
Anyway, there you are. Anyway, so going back to all that, still trying to figure out what was always real and what wasn't, this and that. And being ADD or ADHD, your imagination just goes flying off the wall, and you never know what you're hearing. You don't know if you're seeing what you're seeing or if your imagination's playing with that, imagination playing with the hearing, or, the entire thing was just a dream. But I remember being on that island, and it was a time that it was me and Ben was on that island. No one else, just me and Ben. And Ben, hey, kick back, have a couple of drinks, whatever. I never drank, wasn't me, but he enjoyed it. He sat back, kicked back, and just really, really enjoyed it and got drunk. And he made the comment of a tree. And that's why, Raz, I asked you if you were going to talk about a tree monster. Because, trees don't move. They don't move. Or do they move and tangle up a fishing line and a couple other things? But yeah, I just remember being by the camp fire. We're sitting there. He's pretty much about ready to pass out. His tent's on one side of the little island. Mine's on the other side. This island has dirt, but most of the dirt is on sand. So we just sat there, and it's been there long enough that the trees have actually grown into this dirt, sand, soil mix. But there was that one tree that just seemed like it was not in the right place. No matter what, as many times as we went there, it just seemed like that one tree moved. And then finally, I would say 3 months later, we had a group of people go out there. And not only did the tree move, the tree actually was gone. So, be it a massive amount of water came through, grabbed the tree, uprooted it, and took in it, or was the tree just not happy in its current location? Because that was the tree that we were throwing knives at the first couple of nights.
Lovely. That's lovely.
Hey, it never argued. It never said anything about ouch, my bark, or anything like that. But being that person that's always like, well, what happened there? Somebody told me a long time ago. After that happened, how it was really weird that he encountered a tree that hid behind another tree. And when he went to go investigate this tree, it just seemed like that tree kept on moving around. And he said, hey, it could have been I was drunk, or it could have been that it was absolutely a tree that could find a way to move around. I don't know. I've heard legends of trees that move around. I just can't say I've officially seen it move. I'm pretty sure that thing wasn't there, and when it disappeared, and usually trees go down the river and get caught on another tree, right?
Right.
We couldn't find that thing. It absolutely but like I said, was it my imagination playing with his drunkenness, or was it my imagination playing with myself in my mind? Or I don't know. That was something just really weird. And I always say, if I'm going to find something, let it be really interesting and make me confused to the point I'll always remember it.
Right.
Well, having a tree move around, that always confuses me.
Oh yeah, and there's a lot of folklore from different countries, different regions of countries, different religions, different tribes, that dating back to the beginning of recorded history about spirits, actual trees, the fate, so many things, cryptids out in nature, and things that you don't want to screw with. There are certain things that are there to protect you. There are certain things that are there to do the opposite and probably eat you. And there's just a lot of things that are ambivalent to you unless you do something to either honor or piss it off. So your best bet is to just always be respectful when you're in the woods, or you're probably fucked. Even if you're not fucked on that day, there will come a day. There will come a time when something terrible will happen to you as a result of being disrespectful in nature.
Yeah, well, I totally agree with that. I also think that island just might have had bad luck tied to it. That was also the island that that they were trying to zero in a gun, and just kind of found out there was something way past the target.
Oh,
They didn't shoot anybody, but
that's good.
gun safety.
Yeah. Hello, Ryan. How's it going? So, Dale.
Legends by Night snipers.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't camp. That's the thing. I don't do tents. They're just not my thing. But I have gone, I lived on an acreage, and so I'd spend a lot of time running around in the trees and stuff there, because I had like 60 acres, went all the way down to the river. Had a lot of fun doing that. So I went out with my friends. Sometimes we'd go to the lakes and stuff. And there was also a Boy Scout cabin down by a river around here that I've gone to for a couple different celebrations. And the first one, I guess, was we'll just go with that one. It had a lot of land beside it. But it's this huge Boy Scout cabin. And it's just like they didn't build it, they just rent it from this guy. But it has like bunk beds going down two sides, a fireplace that's like like 10 foot tall and so wide and stuff. And so we'd like just pull all the mattresses off and throw those on the floor and sleep in front of the fireplace, depending on how many people were there. Because one of the groups that would go, we'd have like 20 some people show up. But for my birthday, there were just 5 of us. 6 of us. Sorry. But I had gone down with a couple of friends, and some of us had decided that we were going to try to do my birthday, by the way, for you guys who don't know, is on Halloween. So we were going to try to do a wild hunt. And it's kind of an old tradition. And you basically are challenging the fae or the nature spirits of where you're at to be granted use of the grounds. And my friends decided they had a couple extra little things that they wanted to do because they were practicing some stuff at the time. So they wanted to try to summon demons to challenge them as well. But I was just going straight with a traditional thing. And like I said, there are a couple different preparations you have to make. And I'm not going to go through all that now. If you want to learn how to do a wild hunt, don't do it off of listening to somebody quickly telling a story off of the internet. Research it and check into things very well, because bad things can happen.
You're going to have a bad time.
Yeah. Make sure you have the whole thing down right. And be knowing that you have to be able to go out to prepare before you actually go and start it. So anyway, we'd done all the different things. And there were 2 girls with us that night who were going to just stay in the cabin. They didn't want to have anything to do with it. And the rest of us had gone through. And basically you go and you set out a path that you're going to run and try to find. And you have to try to focus and not get distracted for something taking you away, make it to your goal point, because the woods will change around you. These types of things are just going to happen if you're doing it right. And then once you've done that, then you go back and you've made your peace or whatever, and you honor the wilderness with it, and you've been granted the ability to spend your time there and practice things there, as long as you're giving back. And so we went out, and all 3 of us split up, and we start running and doing our route, and we're all like lightly armed and dressed to be out in the woods. And as you're going, the woods change and got to navigate through and figure out where you're going. And I'm saying like this, like that's absolutely normal, but when you're doing it, it is. You're like, oh, I ran this path like 50 times before, and now it's not there, and this is here, and I've never seen that tree before. But all three of us made it. Took about maybe 45 minutes to an hour or so to get through, which doesn't sound like it's super exciting, but when you're doing it and it is all thrown up, it is kind of like, okay, yeah, you got to make it past things and ignore the stuff that's trying to lure you away from where you're going. And as we were heading back, we all met each other. And we like the reason that we were all heading back in the same way is that there were howls coming out from us, like wolf howls. And I don't know how many wolves we have in Nebraska. Haven't checked lately. I know we have coyotes, but I also know the difference between coyotes and wolves, and these were wolves. And they were herding us. And so they'd herded us all together. And we were like triangulated, surrounded by them. And finally just like worked our way together, and we're like, we've been allowed to be here, and made our way back to the cabin. And when we got there, like we were going to talk about our experiences, but the two girls who had stayed behind were just freaking out. And we were like, what? And they thought something terrible had happened to us, and they were stuck in there because we had left and gone down to like the bonfire area to start everything, which is like a slope down, you can't really see it, and they had the windows shuttered anyway. But after we left and once we started things, they had stuff like noises being made, things like scratching against the cabin, howls of stuff. The entire time we were gone, they were being harassed like nonstop while we were out. And they just thought that something was going to come in and get them, and that something absolutely horrible had happened to us. And so we had like calmed them down, because it had stopped, and we're like, we're here. If anything happens, we got it. And these were two gals who had met me and had wanted to learn more about this kind of stuff. And so I think it really freaked them out because they were in that state of, well, does it really exist or doesn't it really exist? Oh shit, it exists. I'm going through this right now. And so that was my big camping story, even though it took place at a cabin, but it was still,
I think it counts.
my outdoor story. Yeah. And Raz, you're muted.
Mine was also a cabin story. So I'm old now, so it's hard for me to go camping like I used to. I actually I prefer cabins these days because it's easier on my back.
Yeah.
Hey, Ashton, that's my weatherman over there.
Hey, what's up?
He works at the haunt with me. Actually, he actually lives just like a couple blocks over from me. He's just a slacker.
Come hang out, dude. Come on, chill.
I was just more amazed at how manly he looks, but he's got that baby face.
Yeah.
Oh, Ashton?
Yeah.
Did you draw your beard on? Is that?
Oh, that's definitely drawn on there, sir.
I'm just saying, like, he's got that baby face, but with that manly.
No, I love him to death. When I did the video for the homecoming dance, the haunt this year, him and Matt did this hilarious like newscast where he did the weather and Matt did sports or something like that. So I filmed the whole fucking thing and actually made it part of the video for everybody to see.
That is awesome.
Yeah. What do you got for us, Jenny, as far as all this goes?
So, when you go camping in different areas, you notice different things. Like back home around the Chickamauga area in Chattanooga, you'll see more things like Civil War ghosts and whatever. If you are in tune, it's not uncommon to randomly have a one of them that's not like repeating to stop and kneel down in front of you as a kid and say, "Hey," um, what he said, it was just in my head a second ago. "Young lady, get back to your mama." And I just said, "Yes, sir," and run. But uh I'm used to seeing human ghosts and of like anywhere from Native Americans walking by to randomly nannies sitting on the couch. But the what threw me off was first time here in Texas, close to the Independence Cemetery area in Beat Ice. We were just sitting outside camping. Dad's telling his usual stories, um, like the one where him and our uncle is rowing the boat uh, on one side, like John Wayne, and they're spinning in circles. And he stops mid sentence, and this weird blob thing is going past us. It's tall, like as tall as a one-story building and probably about as wide as a car. It pays no mind to us, but you can hear it make the like the sounds like it's going across, dragging itself across the ground. And in the dark it looks kind of squishy and see-through, but it made no sense. And it just walked past us. Well, drug itself past us. And then nothing else made sound for a little while after it went past us. And then slowly everything started making sounds. You could hear the bugs again, and you could see random things, often like the random lights, anywhere from the lightning bugs to actual the usual weird little spirit lights that went around the cemetery. But I never seen anything like that blob thing in my life.
That's interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
They're
I can't say I'm too familiar with blobs.
yeah,
I've,
yeah. I'm not sure what
only one
that
I've
could have
ever
been.
seen.
Yeah.
Only one Dad had ever seen, and I know I've told you guys stories about different things he had done in his lifetime, and he was confused because he'd never seen that after all the different spirits he'd seen in his life. Texas is weird.
It is. The next topic I want to get to, as far as the outdoors goes, unusual cryptids. Like, of course, we talk a lot about Bigfoot in the past. That's something we bring up a lot. There's a lot of great ones out there. There are some lesser spoken about, just very off the wall ones, and the one that always comes to mind for me, and this is one of my absolute favorites of all time. This is both considered a cryptid and Native American lore, actually, and also Appalachian logging lore. It's called the hide behind. It's one of the most interesting things out there. I love this thing. It's one of the few things I've yet to write a story about, actually, that I love. So I need to get on that. So the hide behinds. Um, the most famous stories are probably the Appalachian logging stories, to be honest. It came about because at one point in time, in Appalachia somewhere, an entire logging town of people disappeared, a whole crew. And this was a big operation. We're talking like close to 30 different people, including the foreman. It's disappeared. And no one, it was the kind of setup back in the day, like in the days of yore, where people would go out. They'd be gone for sometimes like 4, 5, 6 months at a time with no contact with people. They'd take all their supplies in with them. If there was an emergency, they had radios, like when they had radios. And before that, it was just they'd get back to town when they got back to town. No one thought anything about it. And I know it was like 6 or 7 months went by. No one saw these people. They were supposed to have only been gone for 6 months. So people started to get a little bit nervous about it. 8-month mark, they sent like a scout to go and figure out what was going on. On the way to the camp, they found one guy like barely crawling through the woods, and he had like big bites taken out of him. I mean, he was all kinds of messed up. And they got him medical help right away. They got him out of there. They made the journey back. The other scouts went ahead into the logging camp. Well, when the guy got back, the crew that brought the guy directly back to get medical attention, they got him situated. And about a week later, is this like a month or two, a month or so long trip for the other scouts to get all the way there and back? They come to find out in the town that something had attacked the logging camp, and one by one, people just started disappearing. The loggers were getting nervous about it, and according to this guy, his direct experience was he was in the woods, coming back with a friend of his, late in the evening. They stayed out later than they were supposed to try and get some more work done. And as they were coming back, he noticed something like this dark form, like a darker shadow than usual, just seemed like it was attached to his buddy's back. And his buddy was freaking out and saying he could feel something like digging into his back. But every time he would turn, the guy said he felt something on him, but he couldn't see. He just kept turning around. There was nothing there. But the eyewitness said he could see this creature just on his back digging into him. And it was like almost like he was controlling him and puppeteering him in the wrong direction. And then the guy just went off into the woods, like ran off into the woods real quick. And all the guy heard was just screaming in the distance, like just terrible shrieking and screaming. So the guy starts, running back to camp quicker, and then suddenly he feels it as well. He feels something latch onto his back, and he said he just kept spinning in circles. And out of the corner of his eye, he would catch something and turn, but he could never actually see it. And he could feel just something again digging into him, like almost into his spine, and it's like it was directing him and puppeteering him towards some sort of like a deeper spot in the forest. And as he goes deeper in the forest, he realizes there's a cave, and he starts seeing the bodies and pieces of bodies from all the people he'd been logging with. And he said he can't even remember what he did to escape it. Like the thing had detached, and he had the vibe that it was basically about to just eat him as well. And he says he remembered seeing a rock and hitting it with a rock and just running. And then the next thing he knew, he was half awake, laying in the woods, and they came across him and brought him back to town. Well, this report gets insane. It goes all over the town. Now another 3 months have gone by, and the other scouts have not returned. Rather than sending actual scouts, they just completely abandoned it and labeled the place as uninhabitable and would no longer allow any sort of logging crews to go there. And that was decades until modern technology kicked in with actual radios and chainsaws and things like that, because it's just an axe crew, man, an axe and saw crew. So and then once things modernized, the area opened again. Intelligent people went out and like little farm trucks, whatever, just to kind of survey the area. And after the land survey, they didn't really find anything. But during that time, they were bringing people back. There were sightings of strange, dark, shadowy creatures in the woods. They ran upon this cavern that had a bunch of skeletons, human and animal, like piled. Like you were walking through piles of bones, and there were skulls. Just the smell of just rotten blood and like thick, like that iron smell. But they didn't actually see anything again past that. And that's one of the more famous stories. But there's a ton just like that. That's just the one that involved the entire logging crew. And like I said, that's Native American lore. It's logging, Appalachian logging lore. There's just so much lore behind the hide behinds, and there's not a lot of pop culture media about hide behinds. I know if you type in hide behind, there's a really cool horror film that you'll find on YouTube that an amazing company did, but there's not many stories about them in popular culture. So there needs to be more, because they're fucking terrifying. I think that something just attached to your back and control you into a place where it can just eat you. And no matter what you do, you can't see it. You can't reach back and grab it. Nothing. It's just you feel it, and you just know you're done.
That's terrifying.
Very.
Yeah, that's why I love this thing so much. It's so it's so interesting. Like I wouldn't love it to attach to me or anything, but like the concept and the lore behind it is it's pretty unique. I mean, I don't think there's a lot out there that I've heard of, and I've heard of a lot of things that are quite like the hide behind. Do you have any odd or unusual cryptids, Pyle?
Well, there are plenty of odd and weird cryptids out in the woods. Well, as soon as you start talking about the hide behind, I absolutely was like, Man, this would be something that Jaden would be like digging his talons into right now, because I would say about three months ago he was talking to me about the hide behinds. So, but other cryptids, oh my gosh, there are so many different cryptids. There, I wish I would have thought of it. There's actually a cryptid that is actually supposed to be lured by campfire. And I can't remember what it is or anything like that. It wasn't a really shadowy thing. It was just something that no one could ever say what it really looked like. It just something would snap around and this and that. They would get like a small description. It wasn't a dog, but it was about the dog size, and I can't remember what it was. And I don't even know if that was here in the US or if it was over in the dark forest of Germany. And like I said, if I would have really thought of it, I should have done a little more research on it. But yeah, I honestly, there's so many different cryptids. I can't even tell you which one would be one that would be more of a campfire one, but the hide behind is just an amazing one.
It's fucked, man.
We can say it's not going to be the frogman. That is more of a guardrail one. Or a wizard.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad they were not in my part of Appalachia.
Yeah. It's fucked, man. So over you, Del. Do you know of any, like, not unusual? I mean, all cryptids unusual. I guess more ones that people don't talk about as often would be the thing.
A lot of my experiences have ended up being with the Fae, and that just leads things to be really fucked. They aren't really cryptids at the same time, but they can take over an entire area. Like I was reminded of this a couple of months ago when a friend of mine called that was involved in this experience. He's like, "Do you remember the night when the thing chased us all the way from the lake?" Like, yep. And we'd been down at this lake and I don't even remember what we were doing, but we pissed off something. And like the entire trees that were bordering around the lake and had there was a huge chunk of trees and there was like in the road going out. Like made a face and started shouting at us, and just like we're bolting, tripping over stuff, jumping to go get in the car, start driving home, and through the woods on the side of the road, and then through all of the cornfields, because I live in Nebraska, going in, there was a shape that was chasing us, going the same speed as the car. And we were going like 80 miles an hour. And it wasn't until we got into town that we finally lost it, because it was apparently tied to the nature, but not tied just to the lake. It was, and when something's following you at 80 miles an hour through a cornfield, it's creepy as shit to watch. And like the driver's just freaking out, and all the rest of us are like, "It's still there, it's still there, it's still there, oh my god." And I've been in some really pleasant experiences with creatures like that, though, out in nature, where things have gone the right way, and like you have cool little things showing up. But like I said, I don't know if that counts so much as cryptids, but it is definitely something you do encounter when you're out camping or out in nature, if you're inclined towards having contact with such things. And I think that's another thing, is that maybe there's not so much told about them because not as many people are connected to them in a way to where they really pick up on any of it, or that they even get any interaction at all.
Right.
So yeah,
something to think about.
Yeah, I don't really have any. There's like, no, I can't think of any really obscure cryptids that I know too terribly much about that would fit in on this episode.
Okay. Jenny, you got anything for us in this particular topic?
I don't know. Do the floaty lights count?
That's more fae-based. You're talking like a will o' the wisp type thing there, but we'll allow it still. I mean, it's a
Okay.
great topic to bring it up because it's fairly common.
Because those things are so odd, and you can see them in the weirdest places, and you can definitely tell the difference between them and fireflies. And they can meet you in cemeteries, they can meet you randomly in your backyard, or in the middle of what seems to be nowhere at the campsite. And probably not the best idea to follow them.
Generally.
Yeah, it's one of those when you're tiny, you don't understand that, so you just go walking. And next thing I knew, I was being picked up by, well, my favorite 7'5" man. Like, nope, you're not doing that.
Will-o'-the-wisps are interesting because the term will-o'-the-wisp actually refers to a hope or goal that leads one on but is impossible to reach. And that's more or less what these lights do. They lead you to the point where you think you can get, you can approach them, so you're following them, but the closer you feel like you're getting, suddenly they seem like they're so much farther away. And there's a lot of folklore and reports about people following them into dangerous situations, following them deep into the woods and falling off cliffs, like very odd situations. Um, it's rare that you hear the story of anything good happening, in fact, from following a will o' the wisp. Very rarely. Although people have said that they've met Fey dancers, they have experienced accidentally parts of the Wild Hunt. There's a lot of interesting, good and bad, and just what the fuck. I probably shouldn't have seen the scenarios that people have experienced. Those that were left alive to even describe the experience in the first place. So it's a strange thing indeed. Next thing I want to talk about is one of my favorite things in the fucking world. This got a really big fictional bump years back. From SAR, the Search and Rescue Woods stories on Reddit on No Sleep. It's one of my favorite series ever, actually, on No Sleep or anywhere online, period. But it's based on some fact. One of the biggest thing in that fictional series talked about a very real phenomenon, the staircases in the woods. And I'm not just talking about some concrete blocks that look like steps. I'm talking about actual staircases, like that do not fit the setting at all that you just come across. There's no house there. Sometimes it'll look like an interior, like multi-floor staircase is just out there for some reason, with no structures around it. Sometimes it's just a simple, like 6 or 7 wooden, nice staircase, or a little bit weathered. But these staircases have been a topic of conversation for going on over 100 years now, and a lot of people feel a lot differently about this. Now, I know a lot of people, like in the fictional stories, bad things would happen if you would get on top of the stairs. What's up, man? Another one of our amazing haunters over at Hell's Dungeon. So in the stories, if you go up the stairs, people will die, bad things will happen. But in a lot of the folklore, it's said that if you actually walk up the steps, a portal can open that can transport you to another world. Your loved one, like the person you love the most in the world, will suffer a tragic accident if you go to the top of the stairs. Like, there's just a lot of conjecture on what these things could be, and some people believe they're a weird version of a fairy ring. Because fairy rings are also said to potentially contain portals to other universes, and they believe that the stairs themselves could be, fey trickery to get you to accidentally cross over because you're too curious, and the fays rely on you as humans being stupidly curious. That's how they get you. So, like the stair thing, I ran across a number of different weird staircases, and I have gone up one in my lifetime. This one was only 10 steps, and it was a wrought iron staircase too. And I checked because I'm interested in like very weird things like that. So I checked the survey, and it was the Inglewood Reserve. So it was just like a known like giant park / nature preserve / all this stuff. They actually have ruins on site of other things that used to be there. So I thought, okay, there's actually a good chance there were probably ruins here, and this is just what's left. and I went, I happened to run across the ranger on my way out, afterwards. But I actually went up these steps, and when I got to the top of the stairs, it was nighttime. Everything looked the same. When I got about halfway down, the sky started lightning. I got back down to the bottom of the stairs. It was normal daytime like it was when I went up. And I did this like 3 or 4 times because I was stoned, and it's me like trying to figure out like what's going on. Like, is there something up there I'm not seeing that's just blocking the light? I mean, but then why is everything dark down there? It was very confusing. I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it, and nothing particularly bad happened. I didn't see a portal open up or anything like that, but it changed the time of day. And I was like, okay. I was by myself that day. It was just one of those days where I went hiking and just kind of had a chill day. And on my way out, I ran across the ranger, and I mentioned it to him. It was out not too far from Patty's Falls, which was actually the site of a woman named Patty and her sisters. There was witchcraft involved, and the husband of Patty murdered her sisters for suspecting them of witchcraft, and then she killed him and committed suicide by jumping into the falls nearby. So the ruins of their little 1-floor hovel are still there right by the falls, and it was maybe a quarter mile from that. So I'm figuring it's close enough to ruins and the fall. There's something. And he's like, we don't have any wrought iron staircases. Can you, if you got the time and you don't mind, I know it's getting, later, but you obviously have a light. I've got a better flashlight than you have. Would you mind walking me back to where it was? And I was like, yeah, sure. I had nothing to do that day. It was a free day. I didn't have work the next day or anything. So got back on the trails. We went there. It probably took about another hour or so to get all the way back to where that was. And as we're getting near the area, he stops me. And we're probably like a 2 or 3 minute walk away. He's like, oh, I wish you would have told me it was in this direction away from the falls, because this is one of the directions we prefer people not to go. Like, we don't have it marked off, but we get a lot of sightings and a lot of stories of things happening here. A lot of people have gone missing more in this part of the reserve than anywhere else. And the really bad shit that tends to happen around here tends to happen here. There's even been animal attacks here, and we don't even really have wildlife that would support, whatever animal things are happening here. And this is a ranger. I mean, I had talked to him many, many, many times. Like, it might seem like it was like it's weird that he was just so open with me about it. Like, I'd even camped with this guy before. Like, he was a very nice guy. He was an older guy. He was one of the older, I don't give a shit rangers. Weird shit happens, and I'm going to talk about it, which is probably why I was such good friends with this guy. And plus, we smoked on occasion when we would hike. So he was just like, yeah, man, like, I wish you would have said it was here. I was like, well, I mean, do you want to go see if it's there? He's like, I'm going to bet you $1 million right now that it's not there. I'm like, all right, let's go. We went back. I saw all the markers, everywhere that it was familiar to me. I knew exactly where it should be. We got there, and sure enough, it wasn't there. There was no staircase. There was no evidence, no, depressions in the ground. There was literally just nothing, just forest floor, because it was a little bit of a clearing. He's like, yep, I figured that was going to happen. I was like, what do you mean you figured that was going to happen? He's like, you spend a lot of times in the woods. Not much time as I have, but you spend a lot of time in the woods. I'm like, yeah, I've been around the woods a lot. And he's like, well, then that weird shit happens sometimes, shit that you can't explain, and you just kind of move on. And I was like, yeah, I mean, you're supposed to move on, but I really didn't want to let this go. So I kept going back here. I went there often enough to see him usually, or to walk around, but it wasn't my main park. I switched that to my main park for 2 years. In 2 years, I went a couple times a week to this place, trying go back to the same spot, circling around, just checking out the area. And it was almost 2 full years, almost a 2 full year mark later, I saw it again, and the same exact spot. This time, I took fucking pictures of this staircase because I was prepared. I had a camera that could do video and, stills. So I just got it out, took a little video. I walked up the stairs. It was nighttime again, just like the last time. Walked back down. It was daytime. I did it a couple times, took some video and some pictures. I was excited that I had the proof. I didn't run into him on the way out, but it didn't matter. I even marked my little, trail map that I had on exactly where it was, where I found it, like the exact location, the exact coordinates. Got back. Got a hold of him like a couple days later, and I hadn't looked at anything yet. That was back when you had to get film developed, because it was weird. So got all the pictures back from that. Then I had the actual footage that I had, which I had to get developed as well because that was back when you had to develop footage with old cameras too. So by the time I got back a couple days later, I paid for the express. I had him over because we were going to look at it together. We opened it up. There was no difference between night and day on the footage or picture. But what was there was the staircase, the fact that I was on them, and the fact that they exist. That was it. The staircase was there, but the scene, the daytime thing did not change at all. But I at least had proof that the fucking stairs were there. That was something. Because when we went back again to those exact coordinates, literally that weekend, no staircase. It's one of those weird fucking things that happen in the woods, man.
I've never gotten to caress a staircase in the woods yet. That's something that I have wanted to see, at least. But
I'm experienced those 2 times only. I haven't looked. I look all the fucking time for shit like that. It's only those 2 times in my life that I ever actually really experienced it. Are there any other just weird, unexplainable things like that seem like just weirdly fucking out of place that you've experienced or ran across, Pyle?
I've tripped over a lot of things I don't think should be in the woods. And when I say that, it's usually a fence. Why you put a fence there? I know it's a property fence. But the deer got over it perfectly fine. Me, not so much. Right beside the fence, the barbed wire. So, I'm just saying, if you go
Don't whiz on the electric fence.
But yeah, I honestly, we used to go we used to go into woods behind my parents' house all the time. It was deep enough that it actually had bloodroot, and bloodroot is usually one of those things that you don't find unless it is a woods that actually has enough plant cover. And around here, we do have a difference between a thicket, a woods, and a forest. Right. A thicket you can see through, or a thicket is just a group of maybe some trees, maybe like a property line, something like that. A woods you can see through. In a forest, keep on running and you might find the other side. That's how we've always said it in my neck of the woods here. But there are just so many things you can find in the woods, be it explained, be it unexplained, be it that freaking groundhog hole that you found. As you can tell, I find everything that I should not find because I'm clumsier than hell, apparently. And Dad always had to pick me up out of the groundhog hole and say, yeah, I won't put your leg down in there too much. He'll eat at it. But something weird about steps, staircases, no. I've never found that. I've found some pure wrought iron and stuff like that, things that shouldn't be. Found cars. And you go and you open up a car that's been in the woods, you never know what's going to come flying at you. Could be a bird, could be a bat, could be that snake that mom goes running out of the woods screaming, saying, I'm done with this adventure.
Right.
But, yep.
Danger noodles.
You know, we don't have the traditional danger noodles, the ones that make it on the news that someone got bit by. We got the pesky little garter snake that you open up and it's like, ooh, look at that one. And next thing you know, my mom is like running down the trail going, I'm done with this. See ya home.
It's weird. Ohio gets a lot of shit, right? But we don't have much in the way of native poisonous, dangerous things. There's not a lot of dangerous shit in the woods and things in Ohio. I mean, there's things that aren't fantastic, and sure, in a bad situation, you might run across something that could hurt you, maybe kill you if you're a complete fucking moron. But we don't have a lot of dangers, to be honest, and it's strange.
Southern Ohio has copperheads.
Yeah,
Once you get-
that's really southern Ohio, though, closer to the Kentucky border.
right.
Really southern.
Once you get up this way a little bit, you don't have that danger.
Yep.
Logan County's got a danger, and I'll be honest, Logan County does have a danger that you would not really think about it. And by the time you see it, it already seen you, and it will do anything it can to take you out. And that is a wild boar.
Yep. I'd forgotten about the wild boars.
Here.
Yep. We do have some wild boars there. Yep.
And a lot of turkeys.
Oh yeah,
that will take out your windshield. I will tell you that.
They fucking will. And our possums are assholes in Ohio. Like they will try and like they will fuck you up, man. They just don't give a shit. They will fuck you up. I once had one hop out of the tree when I was delivering a newspaper. I'm like, oh, it's a possum. Didn't even care. And then it starts running at me, and I'm like, what the fuck? I start moving quicker. I'm like, I don't want to fucking hurt the damn thing. I hopped in my car, and it attacked and bit a hole in my tire. And I'm just like, you're a fucking possum. Like, what is wrong with you, dude? And this was in like a regular neighborhood, like just not even in the woods, just in the neighborhood. And it was in a tree waiting for me like a fucking drop bear.
Don't have a cat door.
It's called rabies.
You have a house. Don't have a cat door.
It didn't have any of the signs of rabies, though. That was the weird thing about it. It wasn't foaming. Like it was just aggressive, and I was in its territory because I walked right under the tree it was in. I didn't know it was fucking in a tree. Like it's not Australia. There shouldn't be things popping down on me from trees, man.
You know.
I ran into that possum like 8 or 9 times. Yeah, it's a drop. I ran into that thing like 8 or 9 different times on that route at night, and it knew me. Like it would just come at me, and then one day I was like, you know what? I am done with this shit. And it was a Sunday newspaper, and if y'all don't know, Sunday newspapers are fucking enormous. You can hurt people with them. I just had one in the bag, and I slung a little bit, and I flipped it at it. It popped it, and it took off, and I never saw that damn possum again. I felt bad about it because, you know, I had to hurt an animal, but, like, I didn't hurt him. He just ran the fuck away.
That 4chan meme of my face when I remembered possums play dead is just running through my head over and over and over.
That one didn't. That one wanted me to be dead. It didn't want to play dead. It was the murder possum.
Let me just tell you right now, that's kind of like a monkey fucking a football, and the possum's up in the tree laughing until it falls out.
Yeah, you know it's better than a penguin.
There you go, Del.
So Brandon would like to say we have copperheads around here and water moccasins.
We have false water moccasins. Those things are amazing because they're water snakes. They open their mouth. They've got a white mouth. They act just like a water moccasin, but we don't have true ones here.
Nope.
And I'll tell you what, the copperheads, yeah. And trust me, I've done the research, and I've went through, and I've went to go find a true water moccasin, and I keep on finding these rat snakes that are water rat snakes, and they go and they sit right on the edge, and they go in the water, and then you can just see the design on their backs, and the designs are just a little off, but they will actually open their mouth. They'll act like a water moccasin. They're copycats, and I'll tell you what, I've had them at my house here in Shelby County, and I've even got bit by it, and those suckers, they bite pretty hard, but ain't nothing coming out because they ain't got the fangs.
I mean, we do have the eastern Massasauga rattlesnakes. They're just rare, like stupid rare, and the only time you find them is in like untouched like swamp or marsh areas, which there is very little of left in Ohio. So like they're all but extinct here. And any kind, our copperheads and our timber rattlesnakes are all like in hard southern, and it's everything else for the most part is just, you know, regular shit like brown snakes, green snakes, grass snakes, gardener snakes. We got the hognose snakes.
Yeah.
My nephew's taken up herpetology, and they go out in groups and they do that and rock collecting, and they go herping is what they call it, and flip over. And his first time looking, he found a tan, I think it's called a tan-headed green snake or a tan-headed smooth green. And like it had taken some of the other people like hundreds of times going out to different locations, and he found his first time. But he was showing me when he went out with me the other day, his friends had gone out and they had like pictures with handfuls of milk snakes and a bunch of other smaller snakes and stuff that they were holding. So we have a lot around here, a lot of friendlies that'll just like, I've had one before where I was out and it just like it kept following me everywhere I went, and it was some little black and silver guy, and so I just stuck out my hand and he just crawled out and hung out, put him away eventually.
Oh yeah. One of the reasons why we don't have a lot in the way of poisonous snakes is because one of the biggest species of snakes you'll find here are king snakes. And king snakes, their entire diet is poisonous snakes. So, yeah, it's really interesting. But we make up for it in really fucking other terrible things like serial killers and cryptids and alien sightings and other weird things. So I guess, we didn't get off light there. We just, at least the wildlife isn't trying to kill us. Everything else.
Yeah.
Crikey, that thing's trying to take a chunk out of me.
Whereas Lunar, my cat, thinks it's a good idea to just go out, find random gardener snakes, and bring them inside to play. And I'm like, no, my friend, we can't do that. They don't go in my bedroom. Thank you.
Nice. I think it's about that time for our commercial break. Run to the bathroom, grab yourself a drink, whatever you need to do. But, don't click that X. Just stick around. We got a little bit more of the show left to do after we come back.
Greetings and shabibans. We are the Retro Reductibus Cephala Podcast, a long-form bi-weekly show that celebrates all the things that made growing up awesome.
Well, that sounds good, but I don't know what all those words mean.
I think what Parasite Steve's trying to say is that on Retro Reductibus, we explore a range of retro goodness, from toys, video games, and movies, to cartoons, and even snacks and school lunches.
Oh.
And we do it all with a positive spin, a slew of killer guests, and some very adult language.
And you know what else is cool?
No.
This crazy show is part of the Your King Podcast Network with new episodes every Tentacle Tuesday.
What's that?
And if waiting 2 weeks for a new episode gives you a sad, know that we drop bonus episodes all the time, like the off-format Crow's Nest and an interview series we call The Brick.
You can listen to Retro Reductibus on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any app that's cool enough to carry the only show that celebrates all the things that make growing up awesome.
With
Hello.
Welcome back, everybody. You got the Goyles down here.
I was here. I just had to hit the buttons.
Okay.
I was running back. I had to get my 1 liter, man. It was in the fridge.
That is very important. I was beginning to wonder if we should do another commercial or talk more about random weird something in the backyard.
Like pretty soon our commercials are going to grow. We're going to have a longer break here in the next week or two.
Yeah.
Yay!
So I did find a cryptid that actually is from Germany, and it is kind of like it's kind of like a jackalope, but it's got wings on it.
Let me hit the jackalope, dude. Jackalopes are awesome.
It's kind of like a jackalope. It's got 1 horn. Some have 2, apparently. and it's in the alpine forest of Germany, and people that sit around campfires, it'll stab them in the back.
You need to
And
tell
then
Luna
it'll-
Lovegood about that. She's been looking for that.
It
Is
is
that
so
the
weird.
Wolpertinger?
What?
Is that the Wolpertinger?
That's I
The
could
Wolf-
not pronounce that to save my rage
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, because I just saw the picture because you sent it to me. That's the Wolpertinger, man.
And it's funny because it's got wings, and it's supposed to be able to claw, flap its wings, stab you, and scream.
Yep. There's different versions of it where some people said it was like a rabbit, and some people compared it to a flying squirrel. Actually,
Right.
lots of
And
different sightings of it. Yeah.
but there's stories with people being at campsites and just talking and stabbing each other. It just goes and stabs you.
Yep.
And then hops or runs away.
Yep. It is often said that our North American jackalope cryptid is a cousin to the Wolpertinger.
I'm in prime jackalope country.
Let me some jackalopes. Fast as fast can be, you'll never catch me.
Jeez.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's going
I was-
way back.
Yeah, no can. I was just looking through here. I was like, man, I know that thing. And these there was one story that I was skimming it, and it says that it likes the smell of campfire. There's a difference between a campfire and a woods fire,
Mhm.
like trees being on fire. And it goes and it investigates and finds people and it stabs them. So they don't. The one story says we don't know if they're stabbing people to try getting them away from the fire for their personal protection, or if they're just being little jerks and this is mine.
They're being jerks.
I
Honestly.
just
They're like them and jackalopes and a lot of the other smaller cryptids. There's a lot of fae-based stories where people believe that they're more on the fae side of cryptid lore, where their whole existence and purpose is to just annoy you and do whatever the fuck they feel like doing because they can. There's no real reason. They just can, so they will.
yeah, it from size of Jack Russell to a bigger bully size.
Yeah.
So these things can apparently get pretty big in what people believe they could be. Just, have a pit bull with a freaking horn come and stab you at a campfire. I'm sure that would be great.
Oh, that sounds just lovely. Just lovely.
Get away from the fire, man.
This is why you always bring your couch machete with you
Mm.
if you're going.
Oh my god.
Sweetie.
Or your
that's-
sleeping bag machete or cabin machete or what have you.
I love a good
Yeah, like that.
machete.
We have
I always think a
truck
machete camp.
couch machete. We have machetes for everything.
A couple different ones.
You need a
Machetes are you.
button. You press the button, it shoots up, and you grab it and go, zombie attack.
Not quite yet, but give Josh time. He might figure it out. Finally,
Josh,
look
I
at
have
his
faith in
next-
you, man.
Finally, look at his sharp and pointy collection. I'm like, I didn't know you had that many. Yeah, I need to get a couple more because I need some for other places. I'm like, whatever you need, baby. It's like the chainsaw
As long
thing.
as you ain't using them on me, you're good to go.
But there's other interesting legends that aren't woods based, but they're tied into woods based things. One of the most interesting to me is the Lady in White story, where you'll be driving down a road and there's a woman in all white and it's a hitchhiker. You'll stop your car, she'll get in, you'll talk to her, no response. And then she always wants to get in the back seat. It's always the back seat that she'll open to get in. And then all of a sudden, nothing. You look back, you're looking in the mirror, and she's just gone. There's a lot of that, but some of them aren't content to just take a ride. Some of them want you to see or find something. So you'll stop, and instead of them getting in, they'll do this. That's it, a gesture. And if you get out, you park your car, you can follow them. And there's a really good legend for that on this place called Morning Star Road. That's actually not too far from where I live right now. And we've seen her once. Back when Jason, who does Allied Radio with me, and he does the SCP side of our Allied Adventures, him and I used to actually have a channel on Twitch where we went out and did a lot of paranormal investigation. This was right before we did our YouTube Eli Slenderman series. It's kind of what ended up leading into that. And we were down there, and clear as day, we saw Lady in White. And the deal was, if we saw, we were going to stop. And you think you know how you're going to react when you see something. And me, I pretty much know how I'm going to react. That's probably how I'm going to react. And we get around, and Jason's not a pushover. He doesn't really, and he's a hardcore skeptic. That's why him and I work so well together with things like that. And we weren't going to see nothing. So yeah, sure, we'd stop and do whatever, because in his head, there was no way. We come around the corner, and it's really foggy and weird thick patches, like a little thick patch of fog. You'd come out of it, and then another one would just kind of grow around the car, and then it would disappear. Then there'd be another one. That happened for a good the first minute or two on the road, and then everything cleared up, and you saw her just standing there on the side of the road, like clear as fucking day, and you couldn't see through her. I mean, she was solid. She was solid. Like, her hair was down her face. You couldn't see it. She was wearing all white. She was just standing there. And he stopped the car, because that's what you're supposed to do. And as I was about to open the door, I was starting to open the door, and he's like, "No, fuck that." And he just fucking hit the gas and took the fuck off. Well, we investigated that road a couple times and never didn't see her again. But then we shot an episode of Eli there, for the series, because there's actually backwoods camping, like right off the road, because there's just a little park there. And we got permission. You had to get an actual permit, not just a camping permit, but a filming permit too. So we paid for all of it. It was stupid cheap. No electricity, but it had a very actually nice, really nice and clean outhouse. And they gave you wood. There's a big bin for wood for fires. So we camped there. We decided to camp there for a couple nights. And we decided one day that we were going to figure out what was going on with the Lady in White, because the legend was, her particular legend is that she had given birth not long before this incident, but something happened with her husband. He was very abusive, and he had tried to kill her. And in his rage, he killed the child and somehow incapacitated her. And then to hide everything, he basically, lit the house on fire, which, scattered the ashes of the dead child, but it burned her alive. And the reason why she sits out there by the side of the road is because she's trying to find people to discover her body, supposedly, so she can finally be laid to rest. That's what people say is the big deal. And we thought we might know where the house was. We looked exactly where it should have been. There was nothing. And then later that night, we were filming something and, rushing into the woods. And we actually this fucking burnout shell of a shack. And it was old. There was, animal bones there, not more than usual, nothing crazy. And we started digging around, wondering if this was the place. And we actually found old yellowed, like old yellowed white fabric, just ripped, ripped pieces, buried under leaves and some weird shit, because we were brushing things aside. And then we found what looked like part of a small human skull, and the fuck out and reported it when we left. And I've gone down that way a fucking ton of times since then. I've not seen the weird, fog compression. I've not seen her, not since then. And it was weird because we'd gone through a couple times with different people, and we'd ended up seeing her a couple times before we filmed there, and then just never again. And there's even YouTube videos. There's at least a couple of there from other people about this road and all the weird things that have happened on it. And there's a lot of local lore and legends that you can look up about this road. But to my knowledge, and it was widely reported on the Lady in White. People would see it all the time and report it, up until then. And then since that day, or that we discovered that the next day and got the fuck out and reported it, I still see reports of weird things happening, but I have not seen a single report of her. So I don't know if it's because we discovered it, and then when we reported it, they came in, and I don't know what they did, because they didn't. Not the kind of thing it's gonna be hushed up. It's backwoods camping, not a big town where this is. There was no way that was gonna make the news or anything. So I have no idea what ended up happening with it. No one to my knowledge, has ever seen her again. Some weird shit, man.
That's cool.
But it just
Hopefully
goes
she
to show
found
now.
peace.
Yeah, and that's a reminder that not all things out there are there to hurt you or there to terrify you or or whatever. Like there can be, if this is what happened, there can be positive resolution with weird and freaky and scary things as well. If you give the opportunity for there to be, but you also have to know when to nope the fuck out. Like, and I'm bad at that. I'm bad at knowing when to nope the fuck. You guys know this about me. Everybody else will be gone, and I'm just still standing there investigating the spooky sound. Like, what do you got next? That's kind of my whole vibe with that. But if I'm with people that have like never done this sort of thing before, and I think there could be a danger at all, I will tend to nope out because I know that they won't unless I say we have to go. So I am better when I'm with people. If I'm by myself, I won't nope out ever. But with people that aren't, practicing this kind of stuff, I will nope out for them. But only for them.
I feel like you'd be a guy to take out to the middle of nowhere, get a whole bunch of different stuff, find something very interesting. Everybody would be like, hey, we're going to split, but we'll catch you later. And then we all come back, and here's Raz just sitting there, Indian style, going, I've seen things, so I know a thing or two.
Joint in one hand, cigarette in the other, just going, I've seen things.
Hey, as long as your finger's not tore off and you're smoking your finger.
Yeah. That'd be awkward for all of us.
Yes.
Fingers are for sandwiches, not for smoking.
Bacon.
It's bacon!
What does people smell like? People smells like bacon.
They do. Long pig, man. I think
I do
the big,
anyway.
the big thing, like overall, what this leads us all into is that don't fuck around in the woods, man. Just don't fuck around in the woods. Like, there's a lot of shit out there that's not your average wildlife. The weird thing is, the things that are most dangerous are the things that you don't hear coming, as far as the paranormal world goes. The things that tend to make the most noise make it because they know you're there and you need to dip. There's another really super, super famous series in No Sleep and a little bit on Creepypasta that's actually based on some folklore. It's called The Whistlers. And the story is about this guy finds this journal at I think it was like at a garage or something. He finds this journal inside of a bag or something like that. And it's this woman making this account about this, local lore they found out about these cryptids or, spirits or something in the woods called the Whistlers. And, it was said that when you heard them whistle, it's because they knew where you were and that was their warning that they were coming to eat you if you didn't leave. And there was some kind of creature attacking these people. One by one, they were basically eaten or destroyed. And this goes on. This is like a multi-part series on No Sleep. It's a beautiful, amazing story that makes you feel like you're there. Like it's so well done. But the concept of the Whistlers is an old story. And the actual lore about the Whistlers is they are these big, hulking, supernatural things that are, that live in the woods in different regions. But their whistle isn't because they're warning you that they're coming to eat you. Because, in fact, they do not eat people or meat. They are, what's the word I'm looking for? My brain is dead today.
Vegan?
Herbivores?
They're plant eaters. Yes, they're herbivores. They're actually herbivores, and the reason why they make this sound is because there's something else that's about to fucking eat you, whether it be an animal or something else, paranormal or strange. It makes a lot of noise and moves very quickly through the woods and does the whistle to alert you to danger, to get you to safety. And it's strange how in nature it works that way. Like a bear. A bear makes a lot of fucking sound. 9 times out of 10, a bear really doesn't want anything to fucking do with you unless it's super hungry or you've done something stupid. You know what I mean? Like, steer clear of bears. You know they're there. You can hear them coming. If you hear something big, get the fuck out. Like, just get the fuck out. But more importantly, if you're in the woods and you suddenly hear nothing. No insects, no nature, just absolute silence. That is the worst thing that can ever fucking happen to you. And the reality of this could be the woods by your house that you've been in a million times, and it's only like 5, steps into the woods. It can happen. It can happen on any day, at any time, in any woods, no matter how big or small. When the woods go silent, get the fuck out. Just get the fuck out. Something bad and on some level is approaching you, and the nature's way to warn you is to just be silent, because it's such a shocking thing to just hear nothing all of a sudden. No birds, you can't hear the wind, just dead silence. I can honestly tell you that was something that I grew up being told, and of all the stupidity that has been part of my life and investigating things in the woods, that is the one thing that I have never done is stick around. It was just so ingrained a part of my childhood, even my adult life, that when this happens, you get the fuck out. I've asked questions, and the answers are always, you don't want to know. No one's lived to actually tell about it. Then my questions are, well, then how do you know that you're supposed to get out when it happens if no one's ever lived to tell about it? Like, you're making shit up. And one day, one of the guys in the tribe pulled me and said, listen, there's a reason why we don't talk about this. Okay, well, they taught me about the forest mimics. They taught me about the whistlers. They taught me about so many other things in the woods, so many other dangers or potential allies. Like, it seemed weird to me that any topic was taboo, because no topic had ever been taboo with these people. And what it boils down to are what they call is old spirits. That's the rough translation from Cherokee. Is just old spirits. People and animals and things that have died terribly in nature, that roam from time to time, and they're not tied to places like houses or items or objects, but they prefer to roam in areas of peace, and that is their time. It's time. It's the time for the dead. That's why everything goes quiet in respect, supposedly. And if you stick around, that is a dishonor to them, and they will do everything in their power to rip you basically limb from limb, and you will never be found again. And then you will join their ranks. So that is one version of the only version I've ever actually had explained to me by someone from the tribe as to why you leave when the woods go quiet, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's interesting that nature would also have that instinct to have that moment of silence and that moment of respect. But I mean, and who knows how long that silence lasts each time. I don't know how long they stick around. Again, I get the fuck out. That's the one time I just get the fuck out. And I believe, let's see, Friday has something for us.
I don't know if you ever go to abandoned places and just explore.
Yes.
And see what's there to see. There's something my dad taught me a long time ago, because we had went to this one place to see this one beautiful house. But my mom had tried to explain it in some of her stories, and I didn't fully understand. And when you're sensitive, you get a feeling. Sometimes it's a pressure in your chest, or your head hurts, or something to let you know that this is a bad idea. It was the first time we went to a place where I was actually sad we couldn't go in because of how pretty it was, but it felt like he said, Jenny, Jennifer, it's time to go. Something's bad here. I can't breathe. And I'm like, I have the same feeling. And in other situations, I could feel something was there. Like the one in Sadie Daisy up on the hill. She was there, she stared at us, she watched us all the time. But I was told, yes, it's abandoned, but no, don't go. Because apparently the lady could do more than just stare at us. And I didn't understand, but she never truly showed more than she's there. And different dilapidated places in the woods It can even happen to a church where something's there that wasn't there before.
Mhm.
And that one even threw Josh off because he's like, no, I don't like what I'm feeling here either. Let's just grab a couple of pictures and go.
I've found a lot of abandoned cemeteries and like just tiny churches. I'm like a little one room. Like you walk in the doors, it's like probably smaller than the size of my basement inside, with a couple pews and a pulpit up front. Like just little gathering places. I mean, they're church shaped, glass windows, but they're not big. They don't have multiple rooms. I've ran across some weird ones like that in the middle of nowhere, man, where you just come upon them like in the middle of the fucking woods. It feels like, and there's not a good feeling. There's not a holy feeling. And it's interesting how hallowed ground can become unhallowed ground. And sometimes you would see like, symbols, from different darker practices spray painted on things, lots of candle wax, clear signs that, things are happening here that probably should not be happening here. But there's a lot of weird things with abandoned places. The first one I ran into as a kid was a little house in the middle of the woods. It was this park we always went to. And the park's still famous and around here. So, well, in Dayton, it's Cloud Park. Thomas St. Cloud Park over in Heber Heights, Ohio. We all used to go back in those woods, man. There's a ravine back there. We used to party in these woods as we got older. We went to build a tree house in these woods because it was fun and we could. And it was only like from the place I moved to when I was 9, it was just right down the road. We could get down there in less than 10-minute walk. So we'd go there even at night when we weren't supposed to be there all the time. But I remember I was about... We'd started seeing this place, my brother and I, when we were about 7 or 8 years old. And then, we always were interested in it. We talk about it. Mom just, one time she went in the woods and saw it with us. She just assumed it was some kind of utility shack. It wasn't very big. Well, one day we got really brave and we conned all the parents involved to let us sleep in our treehouse. Well, we had several tree houses. We didn't tell them which one we were going to sleep in. We had the big playhouse that was in our backyard that our parents built. That it was up on stilts and had a staircase and lights. It was really cool. But we had a tree house also in the woods near the house, and we had a tree house over by the park. So we knew that if we stayed in the one in the woods by the house, we'd at least hear them if they were calling. Once they realized we weren't in the playhouse, we would hear them and we'd be able to run back and be like, "Oh, we just did something real quick." So we set our sleeping bags. We set the good sleeping bags that they knew about in the playhouse and made it look like we had been staying there and had one of our lanterns there, and all that. And we took the older camping gear that we'd been stashing. Every time Dad threw out old camping gear, we would keep it, and we'd take this old camping gear to all our little tree houses. And so we stayed in the one next to the woods, and we decided that we were going to get to the park in the middle of the night. And again, those woods were even a little bit closer to the park, so I think it was like a 7 or 8 minute walk to the park. But we get to the park, and we decide tonight's the night we're going to see what the fuck this thing is. And so for the first time ever, it was unlocked. It was just fucking chilling unlocked. And we sat in probably like 10 minutes, just dared each other to open this fucking door. And sure enough, I lost. I lost the dares, which then turned into paper, rock, scissors, best out of 100. I feel like at some point we just kept daring and doing paper, rock, scissors. And we opened it, and there was this rocking chair, a little side table, an oil lamp on the little side table, and a bed. And the inside was clean. It was a little dust, but it was nice. It looked like someone lived there on and off. And this was in a park. But there was no sign that anyone had been there recently or anything. And we ended up camping the night fucking over there and then got back. Sun came up. We ended up going back. But the whole vibe was just really creepy. I mean, that place got torn down like a week or so after that. Just no one talked about it. They just got fucking torn down. Nothing weird happened inside of it. Just you feel fucking weird because you feel like you're in someone's home. And that's the little house in the woods that I turned into that story I wrote, Mr. Jones.
Yeah.
That was like literally the whole event that inspired that whole fucking story. Yeah. But it was just a little house. And I've run across a lot of little hovels like that. As I grew up, I found out that a lot of those shacks are hunter shacks. And they're illegal. They're completely illegal in the state of Ohio to have these little, undocumented hunter shacks just up in woods and shit. But a lot of them, I found, like I said, as I grew up, that's what they were. Except for that was not a hunter shack, because that was in a park, and it wasn't very far into the woods at the park either, which was the other weird thing about it. But no one talked about it. No one knew what we were talking about. Mom had only seen it with us once, and then it was just next week it was gone.
Cool. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Sitting here listening, I'm like, this sounds like pieces of Mr. Jones and Me.
Yeah, when we found it, I mean, that whole first year we found it, like, we made up stories about this place. That's how Mr. Jones came about. It was a story that I made up as a child to fuck with my brother. And we just kept coming up with, we built up the lore of this place. We would swear there was a ghost that was staring at us from inside, looking out the old dusty windows. Like, this is like one of our spots where we would just terrorize each other night over. And that was just the night that we were like, fuck it, we got to know. And there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. Just weirdness. But sometimes, especially in the woods, though, you can. That's the thing. Woods will play tricks on you, man. Especially when you're alone, or when there's just two people that are young and impressionable. And they talk a lot about deserts and mirages and things like that. But there's a lot of similarities to things that can happen in the woods. When you're stressed, when you're lost, you'll see things that aren't there. Like, psychologically, you will actually hallucinate. In states of terror or isolation, you will start to hallucinate. And you'll get into your head a lot of things that aren't there, and then the woods become dangerous to you for a completely different reason.
Right. I'll tell you. I remember going out mushroom hunting with Dad. We came across this cemetery that was actually in the woods, and
I used to do that too, but I have a feeling we're talking about different mushrooms.
Yeah, probably. I'm talking about the ones that Dad used to get it from. Put a little flour on them and fry them up.
Oh, so the ones you can eat without hallucinating. Got you. Okay, yeah, we're talking about different mushrooms.
Yeah. It was really cool because there was this little itty bitty creek that was off to the side of this area that was this old grave. And Dad told me a long time ago that creek was probably about 30 to 40 feet when he was a little kid away from this cemetery. But it had moved slightly on and on and on closer to the tombstones. And you got to understand, down in Port Jefferson, you can get a creek that appears, disappears, and appears again. And it's just because Port Jefferson sits on a whole system of Nortesian wells. So the water just all of a sudden will just shoot out of the ground. And then it'll dry up, move over, shoot out of the ground in a different location. Whatever works for getting the water to move. But this cemetery just was so old, never taken true care of it or anything. And there was just trees growing everywhere. And I didn't even know it was a cemetery until I hit something. And Dad said, oh, yeah, go around that because that's a cemetery. And then he started showing me in this one tree, it actually ate one of the tombstones. So, yeah, I mean, it was really cool to see. And that, unfortunately, not all cemeteries are taken care of. Some just get abandoned.
Did you say the tree ate the tombstone?
It did. Like,
yes,
the tree must have started growing right beside the tombstone, and as it got bigger, it actually wrapped around it, and you could read some of it as the tree was around it. It ate the tombstone.
That's rather cool. I would like to see that.
Yeah. I can remember that one. Yeah,
I can't show you that one. I can show you this one.
Kind of like that, but it was a smaller tombstone, and the tree was bigger. But there again, I was a little kid, so everything was probably a lot bigger. So now I'm thinking about it, me being as big as I am. Let me guess, the tree's only about like this. But when you're a little kid, it's huge.
It's amazing, man.
So, what has been one of the most favorite things you've found abandoned in the woods? Because for me, I think probably finding a car identical to the one in my driveway, just abandoned there, and no signs of who's left it or anything.
That's an odd one, indeed.
A moonshine steel.
Yeah, so that's pretty common in some places I'm from. I've spent a lot of time in just an abandoned quick still, just sitting there.
Well, once again, in Port Harrison, you gotta understand the makeup of Port Harrison here. If you're in Port Harrison, congratulations, you're in a bowl. How you get out of the bowl? You go down the river, and the river cuts through this giant hill that surrounds both sides. To get out of Port Harrison, you gotta go up a hill. To get into Port Harrison, you gotta go up a hill and then down into the valley. So with these Nortesian wells, one of the things was there was an Nortesian well on the other side of the river. In these trees and this and that. And there was always stories of, hey, you know, there's actually some moonshine stuff there. Well, I started laughing because you never really believe that stuff. They said years and years and years ago there was more of this hill, but the Nortesian well that was feeding the water to cool down the pipe, it stopped flowing. And when it stopped flowing, everything overheated because you didn't have water running into it, and it exploded. And it took out a whole section of trees and a whole section of dirt, which the dirt slid into the river, and it made the river a little shallower, but most of the mud and dirt went down the river. But my buddies and me explored, and we actually found bits and pieces of a older moonshine steel, and I can verify that it was not my grandfather's, because he said if you found one, it wasn't mine.
And that's another thing, boys and girls. If you're ever out in the woods and you're stupid enough to have gone off the path and you don't know where you're at, if you come across a moonshine still, a field of weed, anything that looks illegal, get the fuck away, because there are probably traps set up around it if there aren't people sitting there that don't want you to know about it and can probably dump you off in a river somewhere before you're missed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
and on top of that, if you have cameras, don't take photos or pictures of any of it, because what you don't know is when you run across them, there are cameras pointed at you, especially with the weed fields and some of the more expensive stills. Like, there is surveillance set up so they know if they're getting busted, if someone's trying to steal stuff. So they know what you look like, and it's not that hard to find you. There's a lot of horror stories about that. Like real ones,
Right.
like real life fucked up shit.
mhm. There are many a fat-fed catfish in the Kentucky River, or in the rivers in Kentucky, just because people don't get stupid around other people.
Oh yeah. One of my favorite places to surf around on Reddit is called Creepy Ask Reddit. Everybody knows about the Ask Reddit, subreddit. It's just you can go on there and ask questions and people will answer them. A Creepy Ask Reddit basically creates a catalog of all the weird things people have asked. And I go there anytime I need inspiration or I need a break from no sleep or, reading what I'm normally reading. And I'll go on there and just read. There is so much about camping in the woods. And, usually we stick to the paranormal, but what I've found from like just scanning those roughly is that crazy fucking people will approach you and do the most fucked up shit to you, especially in backcountry camping. It is nuts. I'm not going to go into a bunch of those stories and talk about a lot of the human side of it, but like a lot of what I've read there is actually creepier than some of the shit, the paranormal stuff I've experienced. Like just a little bit more terrifying. It's Ask Reddit, my friend, not Ask Reddit. Although you are coming into the ass end of a show again, sir. But yeah, and one thing I did want to mention, this is something, it's woods related, maybe not necessarily Legends by Night related. I've been seeing this thing going around that I wanted some clarification because like I thought you guys might kind of know a little bit more about it. And I know, again, this is really off topic. It's would you be more comfortable with your child going into the woods or going into the woods if you knew there was a man or a bear present? Have you guys seen this going around on Facebook?
April.
Okay. I saw something, but I didn't know what it was referring to. Yeah, I saw something on Reddit, and people were like, yeah, I didn't get it.
Yeah, I'm not sure I do either.
April told me that it was a thing that girls were asking each other to figure out which one would you be safer with, or do you feel like you would be more comfortable with? A guy out in the woods or a bear out in the woods? The bear will probably leave you alone. The guy
Might not.
probably going to hit on you. And
I feel like I have an easy answer for this. I would, even as a guy, I would rather be out there with a fucking bear. I'm not going to lie, because I know what they're going to do and I know how to stay away from them, and it's pretty fucking easy to know where they are. A guy I don't know, I'm not going to sleep that night because I don't know who the fuck they are, and I'm going to be that way if it's any stranger person that I'm seeing wandering around. But I'm starting to understand where this the question is coming from, like a safety sort of. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that does make sense. I know some people were getting upset about the question. Some people were offended by it, and I'm just knowing human nature, just alone. Take everything else out of it. Human nature. Yep, bear. Every time, give me the bear. I'm good with that.
I mean, I don't care. I mean, I'm going to put the guy to work because I can't put the bear to work.
Mm-hmm. But from a female standpoint, a lot of the worst stuff that I see on the Creepy Ass Reddit is actually female hikers and campers and they're telling about their experiences. And I'm not gonna lie, like after reading some of that, I don't want my daughter or my wife to go camping by themselves. I don't. I really do not. And if they did, I would probably, like, without telling them, like, just get a campsite a couple places down so I could just keep an eye on them the whole time so I wouldn't be freaking out. Because I don't trust human beings. Fucking at all. I don't care, male, female, whatever you prefer to identify as. I just don't trust humans because they're shitty and they do terrible things.
So
I'd rather hang out with a monster. I'd rather hide behind out in the woods than a guy. I'll go a step further than the fucking bear.
Stefan put that legitly to kill and eat the bear.
Yeah.
And I don't know where this came from, but I had it popped in my head just now. Wearing grizzly bear underwear.
Grizzly bear underwear.
So here's Stefan saying this. Stefan, what would you do with the skin there? You making some grizzly bear underwear?
I feel like Stefan's the kind of guy that would do that.
Stefan.
He'd make a rug. He'd make the underwear. He'd make the barbarian armbands, and you'd show up the next morning. He's just got everything made out of the bear, and he's just standing there, bone crown. He's ready. Stefan would be ready to go, man.
Did you guys by any chance ever see the guy that took a bearskin rug and he put it over himself and he lays there by the edge of the road, and everybody starts slowing down, stopping, saying, "Oh, the bear don't look good," and there's people taking photos of it and this and that. And one guy gets really close, and he's like, "We should call somebody. They should put it out of its misery. You can see it's barely breathing." And then all of a sudden, the guy goes and starts getting up, and he goes, "Oh, it's trying to get up. It's trying to get up." And the guy stands straight up, and the bear thing goes past his head, and the guy goes, "Ha ha!" And the guy's like, "What the heck?" I mean,
I've not seen that, but that sounds amazing, man.
It's got a line of cars, like 7 cars are all like, "Look at the bear. Oh, the bear don't look so good. We should call somebody. The game warden should do something." And someone's on the phone, and the game warden's like, "If it's a bear that's dying, let it die naturally, you know?"
Leave the fuck alone. No, I feel like that's something that you and I would dare each other to do in public, though. I like very much.
Right.
Squirrel announcement.
Yes.
There is a horse that enjoys playing dead. That has been. You can find it on YouTube. This woman owns this horse, and the pasture that she has, the fence goes up to the highway, and this horse will constantly run over there and play dead. And she gets all these people driving onto her farm and be like, "I am so sorry to tell you this, but your horse is dead." And she's like, "No, it's just playing dead." They're like, "No, really, it's." And she's like, "No, come on." And she'll like be like, "Johnny, stop that," you know. And then the horse like rolls over and stands up and stuff. But yeah, that just reminded me of that. So I had to squirrel off, totally off topic for tonight. But I was just
that's awesome.
It's so
talking
funny.
about squirreling off. I mean, your squirrel has to know the squirrel that goes and gets a what is it? A broom. Lays down, grabs the broom, sticks it on it, and makes like a whole murder scene. Yeah.
It's the Squirrel King.
Exactly. One other question. Why are you eating your s'mores aflame?
Dude, have you ever had a s'more and it's
No.
all like absolutely just gooing, and then you stick it in one of those little sandwich makers that is the netting, and then you stick it in the fire and the entire thing melts and it's all on fire, and then you blow it out really quick and you're like eating it, crunching it. I mean, it's delicious.
But it says you're eating them while they're on fire.
Yeah. Basically, you just blow it out, shove it in your mouth.
I have never eaten a s'more.
You never had a s'more?
Fun fact, me either, because I do not like marshmallows at all. So I always just get the graham crackers and the Hershey bars and just eat them while everyone else is having s'mores.
I'm sorry, my brain hurts.
I will cook marshmallows and s'mores over the fire for people and just hand them over because I like cooking things by the fire. I'll do that and just hand them over. I just don't like marshmallows, man.
What about the marshmallow goo? Could you eat the goo?
I mean, that's pretty much the same as eating like cooked marshmallow fluff. I don't like marshmallow fluff either. And even like when I was a kid, I wanted all the cool cereals and stuff. I would eat everything but the fucking marshmallows. I'd just give the marshmallows to my brother. I didn't even eat the kid's cereal marshmallows. I don't know why. I mean, when I was really little, I could like eat like, just open the package, eat a couple of them from time to time. Like when I was really young, I just stopped liking it.
Judge me all you want, man. I've never been in a situation where s'mores were being had.
Yeah.
That's me judging me. I can't.
I know.
If you guys were here, we would have shared with you earlier because we had s'mores earlier before the show.
Yeah.
There you go. And you know what? Raven even asked me, she goes, "Dad, can we have a campfire?" And it's like, well, yeah, we can. It's just if I'm off of work and not stupid tired, yeah. But last time we had one, I sat out by the fire, and next thing you know, I woke up and everybody was gone. And they all went inside.
That's happened to me before. In the woods, that's happened to me before.
I've been like, oh, great campfire story right here, right now. I will tell you. Okay. And this is not a Legends one, but this is legendary. Let me just tell you.
It's legend. Wait for it. Dairy.
There you go. Anyway, so my father, talking about Port Garrison once again, Port Garrison used to have this festival called Canal Days, and they would have a whole bunch of drunk fest, this and that. Well, we knew people that owned this property that was right beside the river. So the way you got it, you went from the little center of town, you went 2 blocks and you hit the guardrail and went across the guardrail and you would start going down the trail. Okay. But before you could do that, you had to go over the canal. Once you got over the canal, then you went down to the edge of the river. So Dad and Mom had a couple friends with them. They were so drunk that they almost fell over the guardrail falling into the canal. Dad grabbed the woman, pulled her out, lost his footing, and he ended up in the canal. He got up and he said, he was drenched, soaked, everything. They walked down past the canal, went across the river to the bridge, jumped the guardrail, went down the trail. They get to the campsite where we're already there, and they are trying to warm up and this and that. Dad got the fire going, nice, hot, and warm, and Dad is now trying to have a buzz and get warm and this and that by the fire. So here's my father sitting here, falls asleep. What happens if you go and you have something soaked near a fire that has pretty good heat coming off of it? Steam. Right, it's going to steam, right? Dad woke up and there was steam rolling off of him. He thought he was on fire, running, patting himself down, almost jumping into the river to put his ass out. Waking up everybody in the camps. I mean, absolutely. Here's 310s. Everybody's now awake, hearing my dad yelling and screaming that he's burning to death. Well, Dad wasn't burning to death, and here was my father going, oh, yeah, I'm still wet. Sits back in the chair, falls back to sleep.
That's epic.
That is a story I can always remember, and I remember that great time of going down there, getting permission, us taking equipment down, weed whacking, cutting a couple of trees, leveling this entire property out, and then the guy decides he's going to sell it, and now you can go down the state route and look across the river, and you can see people actually camping down there because people have used that spot ever since we cleared it out as a nice, wonderful spot. The guardrail was taken out so they could stick a camper down there. But then as soon as it got taken out, it got put back in place because 2 cars went around the curve and went down that hill and ended up almost into the river. That's also the bridge that, yeah, when your friends say, hey, if we jump off the bridge, would you jump off the bridge? And you say no, and your friend jumped off of it. I was the one that jumped off, and they still said no, they're not following me.
Yeah, same. Bridge jumping is fun when you know the water is actually deep enough, because I've seen people break legs doing that.
Water? Oh, no. Water was down the bridge. Oh, no. I jumped, and as soon as I hit the sand, I went, ugh, and I said, hey, this is a lot farther down than what I thought it was. And 2 of my best friends looked at me and told me I was an idiot.
I mean, they probably weren't wrong.
Hey, I survived. Look at me now. But no,
Look, Mom, no hands.
I can say that Port Jefferson was good memories for me when I was a kid, because when it came down to stupidity, that's where things were happening.
Yeah. Well, guys, we've had a very an awesome show. We've talked about a lot of things involving the woods. We've talked about cryptids. We've talked about fays, staircases. We've gone pretty deep into this topic. I feel like while there's always more we can talk about with cryptids and the woods and just all kinds of things like that, I feel comfortable that that we've covered the topic well this evening. So, what we're gonna do if we're ready for this is we usually have a wheel that we spend to find out what the next topic is going to be. Do we have that ready, or do I need to just randomly talk for a couple minutes? Because I can do that.
You're muted, hon.
I just need to share the screen.
All right. Cool.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, hold on.
This is the yes/no wheel.
Hold on. It's signed me out again. File.
Open edit.
Open edit. Okay.
And yes, now you guys get to see the back room of some of the stuff we do.
What's possible, we may not have the wheel, but if not, don't worry about it. We let people know what the topic will be here sometime this week. We've definitely been having some wheel woes.
And the topic is things that we can eat and they can also eat us.
That's about everything.
Okay. It itself says it's having trouble with logging in and keeping wills.
That's not a problem. We can do this a different way. You know what? Later this week, we're just gonna pop up a post with a special announcement about what it's gonna be. That seems like that's gonna be the easiest way to do it, which is not a problem. Wheels have not been our friends lately, so we may find a whole way to do this period going into next season. Who knows? We always change things up, so we will come up with a fun topic for you guys. Or if you guys like, in the meantime, you can pop into our Facebook, you can pop into our Discord, message any of us directly. If you've got anything that you think we should cover for Legends by Night, let us know, and maybe we'll pick out something that one of you guys chose. So, yeah, that seems like a fun way to handle it.
We can also announce it on Friday.
Well, we can do that too.
Chainer's Haunted Secrets, and 3 out of the 4 will be there.
Yep, that's true.
Tell your boys more than welcome to come in there and do a little spookapalooza with us.
Well, all right,
I need
guys.
my sleep.
Yeah. Pyle, where can we find you?
What's that? Not in my bed anytime soon.
Yeah.
You can find me here on the Allight Network on many different shows, and you can also find me on Friday, this Friday at 9 o'clock here, Ohio time, Eastern time, for Chainer's Haunted Secrets, and we're going to have Troy. And yes, I know he's got a last name, and I can't say it.
We're gonna make him pronounce his last name, and we're gonna corner him finally about the squishable bus toy that
I want my
to receive.
It was a coffin or a bus, and I think it was a bus. But Troy's got so much on his resume. If you ever know Troy, he's got so much stuff that he's into in the haunted industry, and he likes Taco Bell. So he might tell you how much Taco Bell he had last year. We have a entire guessing game about that every year with Troy. But you can also find me on Taco.
You
can find me on TikTok
You can
That's
find
kinda
him at
like
Taco Bell.
Bell.
At Taco Bell.
But yeah, you can find me on TikTok. I've been kind of slow with that recently. If you go into the Midwest Hunters Convention, you can find me there, and you'll be able to meet the person that has control over the green puppet for Padded Cell.
Tyrone.
She's
Trevor. Sorry, Trevor. It's Trevor.
Trevor.
Tyrone's
You
my
had
middle name.
rest. You had one job.
Oh no! I wish I only had one job.
So
Then I would have been able to remember Trevor.
that's good for. By the way, he's over there and he's still got that green wig on. But you guys all have a great one, and that's done for me. So,
All right, Del, where can we find you?
You can find me on Facebook over at Carrie, Kari Sanders. If you see this as an avatar, that is me. From there, all of my links explode. You can find my author page. You can get to my Amazon page. You can get my TeePublic thing. You can see me here on Owlite on 3 to 5 shows a week, sometimes, depending. I don't know. You can find me over at Splash Pages tomorrow night. We're going to be doing a rehash of Free Comic Book Day and what all we raked in and how much fun we had and who all we got to meet. And yeah, those are pretty much the best places to find me. And most of the time, if you find me, you're going to be replied to by our dear, our wonderful, our very own Argal Friday.
Speaking of, where can we find you?
You can find me pretending to be Delphine. You can find me pretending to be Raz. You can find me pretending to be me. And I think that's the most interesting thing of all, that I pretend to be me. And yes, here on Owlite Network, Fakor Publishing, Friday with the Library in the Blue Box, and my author page, Jennifer Elliott.
Fantastic. You can find me on RazTSlasher.com. You can find me just by typing my name in, so you can talk to Jenny pretending to be me. You can find me here on the Owlite Network for most of the shows that we do. And pretty soon you're going to find me on Audible. And I'll talk about that more in the future as those details get wrapped up. Otherwise, guys, enjoy your night. Enjoy the things that are obviously stalking you in the night or in the day in the woods, as the case may be. But have a good one.